Welcome to the Wealth Builders Podcast. I'm Billy Eppehart, and on this show, you're going to hear from industry leaders in business, real estate, and investing. Our Wealth Builder coaches and myself are excited to teach you how to make sense of making money for making a difference. Okay, let's get started.
Hello and welcome to this week's Wealth Builders Podcast. I'm Karen Conrad Metcalfe, Vice President of Wealth Builders, as you all know, and I'm just so grateful. We've got a great guest lineup today. We're continuing on the path of talking about real estate. And I want to tell you, there is something with real estate right now that there is an urgency to understand the times that we are living in. And you've heard me mention this, but I'll just remind you, we've got the Wealth Builders Real Estate Workshop that is coming up October 13th to the 15th. And I think the timing on this is absolutely critical for us to step into this opportunity that is happening in this nation. And I'm just feeling so encouraged about this. And I want any of you that are thinking about investing in real estate to see the times we're living in and to grab hold of this opportunity and join us. We've got both a live stream option and we've got an in-person. We love to see you in person, but today I have got Bill Bronchick and Frank Pulley that are joining me on this podcast to talk about creative financing and, hey, what's going on with foreclosures. So I'm going to give you guys a moment just to greet our audience, if you would. Bill, I'll start with you.
Hello, everybody. This is Bill Bronchick, and I am an attorney with 32 years experience in real estate, also 30 years experience as an investor. And I used to run the largest real estate investor association in the country for 16 years, the Colorado Association of Real Estate Investors. I've written 6 published books. What else can I brag about? Been on all the major media networks, CNBC, Fox, NBC, CBS, USA Today, Investors Business Daily, Wall Street Journal, just about every major publication.
Oh my goodness. So, needless to say, Bill knows what he's talking about, but he's also all of our real estate attorneys, and he's part of the coaching team at Wealth Builders. And Bill, we're just so grateful for you. Thanks for joining us. And then we've got our amazing Wealth Builders coach who also works with you, Bill, Frank Pulley.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Frank Pulley. And the way I started in real estate is my wife and I and another couple owned a very large travel and water sports equipment business. And we just got tired of the hours we were having to put in. And so we did some investigating into real estate. I actually attended a couple of Bill's big, large real estate meetings. And then in 2004, we joined his coaching program. And in 2006, we sold our business and we've been doing real estate for full time. In 2010, Bill kind of liked what I was doing well enough. He asked me to help him as a coach, and we agreed it would be kind of on a handshake. If when it wasn't working anymore, we would just part ways and be friends. Well, I'm still hanging around, so still in real estate and still loving it. And I do work for Bill, and I also, starting about 3 years ago, was blessed to, with Bill's blessing, start working with Wealth Builders too. So it's a real calling. I love my work. And I think I'm about the luckiest guy in the world.
Well, Frank, we feel that way about you, that we get to be connected with you. And I love how you guys gave a little background because, really your expertise, you're in the game. And I think that's something unique about Wealth Builders. All the speakers, all of the coaches, we are in the game. We're not just speaking from our head knowledge, we're actually in it, which makes a really big difference. So if you want to register, I've got a special code for you. It's WB200, and you can go to wealthbuilders.org/events. That's wealthbuilders.org/events. If you use the code WB200, you save $200 on that ticket. And it's like a crash course, Bill. That's what you've said. And let me just tell you that if you do choose to be a part of this, I assure you, this will be one of the most impactful weekends you'll ever experience. Not only do we have the how-tos with real estate, but we bring the biblical perspective, and there's ministry that happens, networking. It's just a really wonderful experience. So, all right. So guys, there's a lot of people that are wanting to get into real estate or thinking about it. And maybe they don't have, $200,000 in the bank. Maybe they hardly have any money in the bank. Is it still for them? And then also, what's going on with foreclosures? And so, Bill, I'm going to just pitch it to you to just take off and talk about this topic today.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Well, if you're listening out there and you've got some money, maybe you've got $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, you could still get into real estate because you could leverage with financing. There are many creative ways to buy real estate with little or no money down. That's not hard. It's not hard to buy real estate with no money down or little money down, but you do need some money to be in a business. So you're going to have some computer software, maybe. You're going to have to do some mailers and marketing. You're going to have to spend a little bit on technology. So you need a little money to be in business. If you have absolutely nothing, well, you could still hustle. I mean, there is door knocking. When I got started, I had very little money, and I called everybody in the newspaper. We don't do that anymore. Obviously, people don't advertise. Now it's Facebook and Craigslist, which you could still do. Or you can just go around neighborhoods door knocking on people's doors and see who might have a house for sale. So you could definitely hustle. If you have no time and no money, it's going to be hard. But if you even give it 5 or 10 hours a week, I think it's possible to do a side hustle in real estate and do, a deal or so a month and make an extra 5, 10 grand a month.
It's pretty good, Bill. That's really good. A couple points on that. As you mentioned, you need some resources. That's what happened to us in the mid-2000s. They had all these loans that everybody could get if you could fog a mirror. And appraisers were overinflating the values. Well, people would buy 5 or 6 properties, but the first time the tenants moved out or the furnace went out, they didn't have the resources, and that's what caused all of the foreclosures that happened. And we can talk about that just a little bit later. But I think that there is a lot of opportunities in creative financing. The main thing is you got to realize is most people that are looking for creative financing probably don't know it already. You got to kind of, Bill and I have done mailings and things like that for people that have problems, anywhere from divorce, sickness, job transfer, and they need to get rid of their property really quickly, and their property is a problem. We're in the problem-solving business. And if you can do that, that's the secret to success. You can, we've done, what have we done, Bill? We've done mailers. We've done door knocking. We've done, those little door hangers. We've tried about everything, postcards and that sort of thing. You got to mail to the right list, but it can be done. And
it can be done.
It can be very lucrative.
You don't have to have millions of dollars to get started or the ability to go out and borrow millions of dollars from banks. You can get started on a shoestring budget. But as Frank said, you don't want to go buy properties, no money down, which is really possible, and then don't have no cash reserve. That's a mistake. There was a guy on TV a long time ago used to sell this no money down course, which was really good. It was all these creative ways to buy real estate with no money down. But what he never mentioned was what happens when you buy 10 rentals and 3 go vacant and you have no money saved up. And it's the same with people these days because interest rates are high. They're tempted to put more cash down to get their payment lower for more cash flow. And the problem with that is if you don't leave yourself a cash cushion, whether you're 50% down or 20% down, if you don't have a cash cushion in case of an unexpected vacancy, repair, or other issue that involves cash flow, you're going to become the proverbial motivated seller that we're all looking for.
Yeah. Let's give them a couple of nuggets, Bill, for the real estate workshop. I hear that it's possible that if somebody's got a really low interest loan, that maybe you can take over their payments, get the title to the house, maybe catch them up on their equity and actually improve their credit. What's your take on that?
Yes, there's many ways to leverage existing financing instead of going out and getting new loans. Investors are paying over 8% now for loans, some as high as 10% if you want to get a no-income verification loan, which they freely did in 2008, but now they're very expensive. But 62% of loans out there are 4% and under. 1 in 4 are 3% and under. So if we could find a motivated seller who is willing to do something creative where we can leverage their financing that's there without paying it off, and there's so many ways to do that. We'll talk about at the workshop. One of them, as you mentioned, is just taking title to the property subject to the mortgage and making the payments. If they're behind in payments, it's going to go to the bank. They're going to ruin their credit. They're going to have a foreclosure on their record, which is horrible. The bank's going to have a mess, and it's a lose-lose. So turning a losing situation into a winning situation by buying that house, catching up the back payments, seller's happy, we improve his credit, the bank now has a performing loan, and we make money. Win, win, win.
Yeah. Before we get into foreclosures, people are always asking me, and I know, but I'm gonna throw it to you. Free and clear houses. Are there opportunities there? Somebody wants to downsize, they own their house. What's your thoughts?
42% of houses now in America are owned without a mortgage, free and clear. Is that unbelievable?
Yeah.
That number used to be about 34%, but it's gone way up as mortgage rates gone up. People are paying off loans or putting down more cash. So if you've got, let's say, a tired landlord who's got 5 free and clear properties that wants cash flow, but they don't want to deal with the tenants, you can buy it and ask him to take payments for his equity instead of cash. And cash doesn't necessarily mean all your cash. You could borrow from a bank for part of it and put a cash down payment, and then the proceeds go to the seller. That's still considered a cash deal. Instead of doing that, say, Mr. Seller, how about I give you 5 or 10% down and you carry the rest in payments over 30 years with interest, but not 8%, maybe 4%. Yeah. And for the seller, it's a good deal because he gets a return on his money. He gets a quick sale. He doesn't have to fix it up and make it beautiful. As long as it's in rental condition, that's fine. And there's a tax advantage if he bought it 30 years ago for 1/10 the price, which is more than likely. When you sell on terms like that, with taking payments over time, you spread your capital gains liability over the 30 years instead of all at once.
And if you resell that property, and you carry the papers.
Yes, you can.
You should run a 30-year amortization schedule, because you can make more on the interest of the loan than you're going to make on the profit of the house by a long shot. And
that's true.
You're going to pay a lot less taxes doing something like that.
That's correct. That's correct. So if you own a home free and clear, that is, let's say, a rental that you've had a long time, you could sell it and take the payments and become like the bank instead of a third-party lender, and then charge interest, 4 or 5% to be attractive. Yeah. But you can jack the price a little more because you're offering sweet terms.
The best part about this is that this does not show up on your credit. And I'll hush up and throw it back to Karen.
Yeah. I was just saying, you guys, this sounds amazing, because a lot of times people don't want to give up their rental property because they use that monthly income to live on. But what you're describing is they can give up the responsibility of managing the tenants, any responsibilities on improvements of the home, and still get a payment every month that will help them subsidize their income.
Exactly.
And reduce their tax liability.
Exactly. In fact, I'm negotiating with a guy right now who inherited almost 40 properties from his mom. Same scenario. They were bought years and years ago, and they're small, dated homes in Denver. Denver City has passed a new regulation that goes into effect January 1st, 2024, that you have to register each unit with the city and have an inspection annually. and they're going to come in and say, update the electric, update the plumbing, update this, update that. And he said, this is going to cost me close to $1 million. So he's going to sell it to me. We're negotiating now. He's going to sell it to me with seller financing. So he's going to get the income, but he doesn't have to deal with 40 tenants in the city on his back every month or every year about improvements.
Well, Bill, my expectation is that you're getting those properties at a pretty darn good price to kind of like offset you taking on that responsibility, which is kind of that win-win.
A little bit of a discount, not a huge one, but he's offering it to me with a small down and low interest.
Got it. So
that's really where, that's how I'm going to make my profit, because if he'll give me 3.5% or 3.75% interest, I'm willing to pay almost full price.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. But that is a great example of creative financing. So the thing is that we don't know what we don't know, right? And even I've been just looking back. I just came back from Cocoa Beach, and I just was looking around at property, and I was like, man, that townhome over there that I was looking at was like $250,000. And now it's like, $800,000. And I was just like, wow, I just didn't know. Right. And so that's the thing, like getting educated, which is what Wealth Builders is all about. And this event is all about, so that you can actually see deals like what you're describing, Bill, understand the benefit in that, and actually find a pathway to create that win-win. But if you don't even know to look for it, you'll never see it.
That's right. The more you learn, the more you earn.
There's too many people out there that are listening to, the media, which is, real estate's local, and they're waiting to, sit on the fence until, a year or 2 years or whatever from now.
Who knows what for, right?
Who knows? But the fact is, if you're educated, there are deals out there now. A lot of them. You just got to know what to look for to keep yourself out of trouble.
That's right.
Yeah,
the market.
Go ahead.
The market goes up, market goes down. In the long run, it usually goes up over 10 or 15, 20 years. So, if you're playing the long-term game, it's it's a law of averages. So there's never going to be a perfect time to buy. In hindsight, everything is 2020. I'm sure in 2009, everyone said, I'm not touching real estate. Everything's crashing, blah, blah, blah. I was buying because I knew it would come back.
Me too.
I knew it was going to come back, and it did, and I suffered a few years, it was tough renting them, and I lost money for about 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden it went gangbusters. My rents doubled and tripled, the values quadrupled. And, now I'm sitting pretty on those homes.
Yeah. When we were investing back in, early 2000s, Bill, everybody's complaining about interest rates, but investor loans were 7 or 8%. We made money then.
Yeah.
Wow. So you guys, I'd really love to hear, a lot of people are sitting on the fence. We've talked to a few people that are like, well, I don't know if I want to do coaching right now because of the market. And we're like, now is totally the best time to do coaching so that you're prepared for what's coming up. But if you were to really assess based on, you guys have been in this for decades. Billy says that if you can ride through like 2 real estate cycles, you're really going to be doing well. But what do you guys think? How do you assess where we are today? And obviously there's opportunities because you guys are talking about those deals coming up. We're seeing opportunities. What do you think 2024 is going to be like in real estate?
I see pretty much more of the same. It's an election year, and the incumbent always tries to do what they can to make everything look better. In terms of putting pressure on the Fed not to raise rates and monetary policy and so forth. So I don't think we'll see anything different. Some people are saying prices are actually falling because of inflation, even though nominal prices are pretty flat, depending on what market you're in, to -2% to +5%, depending on what city or what neighborhood you're in. But because inflation, they say, is 3 3/4 now, which is we don't believe that because it doesn't include gas, housing, and all the things that go expensive. But even if we assumed, it was 5%, if it's flat and inflation is 5%, it's really losing value 5%. If you look at it that way. But on the other hand, when inflation goes up, so do rents.
Yep.
And the cost of being a landlord has gone up. My insurance has gone up. My property taxes all went up 30% in 1 year. I challenged every single one of them with the county, and they denied every single one of them.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's gone up. And now I have to charge a little more. And people understand that the cost of materials has gone up. The cost of insurance and taxes and property management has gone up.
Well, especially what you're talking about with Denver. I mean, that doesn't really help to add those things. Now rents are going to be driven up even further.
Yeah. What happens is when they crack down too hard on landlords say, I'm out of this business, and they sell the house to an owner occupant. That's one less rental. There's a fewer rentals, supply and demand, rents are going to go up.
Wow. So interesting. Go ahead.
It's a matter of just knowing what to look for. We use in the coaching programs, we use formulas. We build some conservative factors into them, but if you use the formulas and the numbers are right, then they really don't lie. They got to be numbers that are right, though, because Bill and I have experienced, and so have you, Karen, somebody puts together a deal with numbers they want it to be.
Yes.
But there's no way. So you've got to be right on your numbers. But there's formulas and ways of calculating this to keep you safe.
That's right. So true. That's so true. So you guys, I was in banking, during that 2008 to 2011 situation. And while we were definitely dealing with foreclosures, I still remember they were so prevalent that on our bank website, we actually had an area that you could go and look at foreclosures to buy. And at the time it was just so, my gosh, this is horrible with these foreclosures. But let me tell you, the price that people were paying, they are so wealthy today because they were buying properties in that period of time. So, we haven't seen a lot of foreclosures. Some of it is because there's so many incentives to avoid foreclosure. But when we look at we've had some major banking failures. I've seen reports where, banks are cutting back on lending, yet they're paying out on deposits, right? And so that is really a crunch because banks make money based on the spread. So what do you think is going to happen with foreclosures in the next few months? Bill?
Well, defaults are way up, the number of loan defaults, but the number of foreclosures filed is actually pretty steady to even falling a little bit year over year, month over month. That's going to change. Eventually, defaults, and the reason people are defaulting is because of inflation. It's either fill up your car, feed your family, and all those things cost a lot more, or pay your mortgage. And people are obviously going to choose the first two over the third. So I think as these number of defaults go up, inevitably foreclosures are going to reign, and there'll be more opportunities. But I think what's going to be different this time is what's keeping the market right now from collapsing, basically, because there's so few buyers now in the market because interest rates are so high, it's driven demand down. But supply, the number of houses for sale, is really low. Builders can't keep up, and people are not selling because they want to sit and wait to see what happens with the market. Right. So you have lower demand, but you have much lower supply, and that's keeping the market from collapsing. Some people think that if banks get a lot of foreclosures, they'll flood the market and that will cause a crash. Well, they learned that from 2009, 10, 11. And at first, they just flooded the market as soon as they got them. But now they realized after a couple of years of that, that's not just a good idea. Let's just dribble them out. And then we'll keep the market more solid and get more in the long run, even though it'll take us longer.
Wow, that's good. So do you think that there's opportunities for people that want to get into investing, or maybe they want to increase their portfolio? Do you think foreclosures are a good opportunity coming up? And if so, what should people do?
I think it's one part of the strategies. One needs to be a successful investor. It can certainly be very successful. Bill and I made a lot of money back in the day, so to speak, on short sales. There were a lot of them then. But the problem was it was like following a ball downhill, because you'd make an offer, and by the time it got accepted, the property wasn't worth that anymore. But we learned a lot in those days. And so did lenders. Short sales used to take a year. They don't take that long anymore. And the lenders have ways of softwares and stuff of communicating with them, so that if you got a good realtor, or if you're savvy on how to work with a lender, they don't want to be in the real estate business. They want to be in the banking business. And so they, given a reasonable offer, they're prone to work with people.
Wow, that's really good. And I would agree. I mean, I remember sitting in front of, federal examiners and having to explain a file, right? It's not really fun when those things go south. And so I agree, banks are not looking to be in the real estate business. But looking ahead, foreclosures, I agree, part of the portfolio, but we don't want to limit ourselves to that. And really this discussion, I think it's been really encouraging, like to understand the times that we are in, the opportunities that are here, but also let's not just sit here and hoping that there will be a big opportunity. We believe there is opportunities now, there will be in the future. But Frank, to your point, if you run the numbers, you don't have to sit and wait for that, magic time that all at once everybody's like, okay, let's go buy. The problem with that is that everybody knows then at that point to go buy in some ways.
That's right. Yeah, it was Sir Baron Rothschild who said the time to buy is when the blood is running in the streets. So we're not quite there yet, but the market has definitely taken a hit and has softened quite a bit. And that's the time you should be buying. Most people are like sheep. Don't follow the sheep. Those are the sheeple. Go the other direction. When everyone's running away, you should be buying. When everyone's buying, you should be running away. and that's usually the way it is.
You can't believe these guys on midnight TV either. It's not the easiest thing in the world. You have to work hard. You have to treat it like a business, and you have to be informed. And it's great to have a mentoring and guidance in this. But again, there are opportunities that others don't see. If you see the opportunity immediately, you can rest assured that just about every other person that's watched HGTV is thinks it's an opportunity too.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, it's really a great position to be in, you guys, because we know that God He's really created us with prosperity in mind. He's made the provision. And I'm so grateful for Billy and Becky that have just really, they founded Wealth Builders, and they've created an opportunity for all of us to learn really from their mistakes, from their triumphs, and then to bring people like you guys around the platform. This to me is the time, like there's, we're looking at our Wealth Builders conference in February, and I was asking the team like, hey, what's the theme looking like here? And they're like, you know what, for such a time as this. And so as we go into this October real estate workshop, I just want to encourage you that the time is now. The time is now to learn about this and be prepared and ready. So when the opportunities come, you can step into it. Bill, you've got these great teachings that really ties the biblical, history and things with real estate. And so maybe you could just kind of, we'll end this podcast, you might say, with a little bit of encouragement. Why is real estate important to God? And, through your studies, what have you seen that connects God and real estate?
Well, God promised Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, he promised them land, the promised land. He promised them prosperity, but specifically, his big promise was, you are faithful to me, I will bring you into the promised land, and I will multiply you like the stars, as he said to Abraham. So being in the land is a big thing when you read the Old Testament, especially the Torah. It's all about the land. It's all about how they divided it up amongst how they conquered it first, how they divided it up by tribe, and very specifically in numbers. How they broke it up, and everyone got a lot, and everyone got a right to redeem, and everybody had a boundary mark, and it should be a sin to move one's boundary mark, right? So. Which it still is actually. They call adverse possession. You move your fence over the line. You're adverse possessing someone else's land to this day. So all these principles come out of the Old Testament and God's promise to prosper people through real estate, through the land, which it really all belongs to Him. We are just what they call sojourners in the meantime. But it is biblically accurate to say I can own land while I'm alive and give it to my family and give it to my grandkids. That is biblically accurate, and I can prosper from the land. That is biblically accurate too.
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah, I think that's a thing too. Sometimes we are hesitant, or I've even heard a lot of people like, well, Jesus is coming soon, but He told us to rule and reign, right?
Yes.
And so I just want to encourage all of you that are listening, like if you've got a heart for real estate, I believe it's from God, or, definitely it's a desire that He's put in your heart. And we want to come alongside you to help you to fulfill, that call that you have or desire to build generational wealth. And one of the best things that you can do is join us for this real estate workshop. Again, it's October 13th through the 15th. You can go to wealthbuilders.org/events and use the code WB200. We really want to make everything available to you as much as possible. And I assure you, if you make a choice to come and attend this, your whole perspective on life will most likely change, because you're going to start to see the possibilities and then also gain some biblical insight into how God has called us into this place and how now is the time. So Billy just did a webinar that is called Something's Gotta Give. And in that, he just describes like, hey, what is ahead and why this is the opportune time to learn these principles we've been talking about, so that you are ready to step into what even secular studies are showing is the greatest wealth transfer of all time.
That's
so
right.
Bill and Frank, I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. And I want to thank all of you that are listening. You're part of the Wealth Builders family, for joining us. God bless you and make it a great rest of the day.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Builders Podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate and review the show. If you want to learn more about who we are, visit our website at wealthbuilders.org and check us out on Facebook. We'll see you next time.